It won't be your last.
Yeah.
Become the author of your life. We all have agency. According to Psychology Today, agency is the highest level of personal competence. And I have I forgot to turn the remote on. I've got a passage from the article that I found today on Psychology Today. So let's see if we can get this thing to work. And I'll run you through the passage from Psychology Today. And I got the link in the description as well. So it says, in the psychological sense, agency entails a category of beliefs, a mindset. More profoundly, genuine agency includes the strategies and actions that accomplish what we want and bring us what we need. Feeling that you have agency is nice, but feeling agentic, which is a new word for me, falls far short of exercising agency, thinking and behaving completely, and making real progress toward your desired goals. To exercise agency is to acquire significant control over your outcomes in life's various arenas, including school, work, sports, physical health, psychological well-being. And then they give us 4 pillars of personal agency. So it says the full-fledged agency requires believing you can achieve your goal and engaging in the following activities. Number 1, forethought, deciding to take on a challenge, thinking ahead, setting goals, making plans. 2, implementation, taking first steps, enacting plans, and persisting toward success. 3, self-management, taking care of yourself, dealing with emotions and stress, and maintaining good health to sustain your efforts. And then finally, learning and adapting. So monitoring progress, rethinking strategies and tactics, and making effective adjustments. Thoughtfully executing all 4 pillars of agency contributes to your personal and professional growth while helping you perform over time. Agency is thus a vital source of power, a capability, a competence that can contribute to your overall well-being. So, welcome to the show. I'm your host, R. Brandon Long. This is Ascent Life Live. We're here with the mission to inspire 1 million people a day to live their best lives and become the best version of themselves. If you're not subscribed already to the YouTube, head on over to R. Brandon Long and subscribe on YouTube. You can follow me on X and TikTok under R. Brandon Long as well. For daily inspiration, I have an Instagram account called Ascent Life where I post some fun stuff in the stories there. Reminder, we are live 4 days a week. Episodes are then uploaded as a podcast to all your favorite podcast outlets, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as the Ascent Life Podcast. If you're watching live, play along with this, drop some comments or questions in the chat. If anyone jumps in, we'll get to some of those before the end of the show. Okay, our guest today is author and manager of the Center for the Book of, manager for the Utah Center of the Book, I think it's right, and Utah's representative to the Library of Congress, which I think I forgot that was you, Kase Johnstun. And it makes me feel like you're really important, and I'm privileged to call you a friend. So welcome to the show, Kase.
No, welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I think the privilege is mine, absolutely, for all that you do. This is wonderful.
Sweet. I do an Instagram account of the day, and so I found one that I think you're really going to like. And then I'll read your bio. But let's do, because your bio is like an hour long.
No, we can cut that.
So I did find this Instagram account that I think you'll like. It is Acme Type Machines.
Oh, cool.
Acme Type Machines, the finest European typewriters for serious writers and collectors, worldwide shipping out of The Hague. And you can look at, when was the last time you were on a typewriter?
Never. No, never.
Never, ever.
I'm in high school freshman typing.
Yeah.
And I failed. We all failed because it was the St. Joseph Catholic High School typing scandal of 1991.
Oh, which was huge.
It was huge.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it was huge. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, that news made it all the way over to Bonneville.
I'm guessing. Yeah, it was. It was bad news. I mean, I write for a living. I type every day, probably 3,000-4,000 words a day, and between emails and my own writing. And
I think you should try one of these typewriters.
They look beautiful.
They're old, and I wouldn't imagine they're very much money. And then you can just I wonder what your brain does when you type on something like this versus a computer. If it doesn't matter much, because I know it changes when you write. Like you have a pen in hand and you write, but does it change much when you're going from a typewriter to like a computer? Do you think?
Totally.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it's like with a computer, I think maybe you have more room for error and you're giving yourself, more opportunity to be sloppy. I
Yeah.
think we have a typewriter and, if you want to go back with whiteout, right? Which they used to, I think the
Right.
newer typewriters kind of
Yeah.
had like a whiteout feature.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
played with one of those, and you had to go back and it would type white out in
Right.
the
Yeah.
over it.
I wonder too, I wonder if if that was your only option, you had to type a whole book
Yeah.
and you're going to mess up. I wonder if it made you more precise with your writing.
Well, so photography, because
Yeah.
we use all digital now and most of the time. And
Yeah.
it's, well, especially with phones and stuff. Yeah, you just take a bazillion photos.
Right.
But when it's film and it costs more money, you're
Yeah.
much more particular about how many shots you're going to take, because
Yeah.
every shot should count. So when you're with a typewriter, it's like, okay, let's make sure every word counts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like a waste of
Yeah,
typing
and
and
it's
ink and stuff.
ink and money and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, we have a few of those old typewriters. I don't know if it's theirs. Those are beautiful. Hanging around the house, we buy them at shop meets if we see them.
Do you really?
Yeah, or like garage sales.
Yeah.
Got a
So
few of 'em. They're
like
pretty
they're
cool.
decor.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
decor.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
really, really cool. I've never used them. I don't think they work.
Okay, so I do have some of your bio just because I want to make sure people understand who you are before I start asking you a bunch of questions, and you're like, oh yeah. So author of the acclaimed novel Let the Wild Grasses Grow. The novel was recently named a finalist for the High Plains Book Awards, longlisted for Reading the West, and named a coveted Women's National Book Association for Great Group Reads of 2022. Recently released Castaway, which that was a finalist for the multicultural category of the IPPY Awards and a finalist for the Page Turner Awards. Also the author of Beyond the Grip of Craniosynostosis, which has been featured in the Pennsylvania Parenting Magazine, Portland Family Magazine, Standard Examiner, as well as having mentions in the Chicago Tribune and the Seattle Times. Awarded the Gold Quill, which is first place in the creative nonfiction for the League of Utah Writers. Essay collection, Tortillas for Honkies, which is probably my favorite name of anything.
Yep.
Poker Tables, Cores, and Buñuelos, which is another
Buñuelos.
Some short story nonfiction. Is that what we're looking at?
Essays.
Essays. Okay.
Yeah,
Essays.
essays.
Work has been published widely by literary journals and trade magazines, which is awesome, and was with me at the Ogden City Arts Advisory Committee, and named Ogden's 40 under 43 weeks before turning 40, which is
Pulled it
awesome.
off. Yeah.
Pulled it off.
Yep.
Pulled it off.
It's almost a decade later now. If you can believe that.
I cannot believe that. That
Where's
went by so fast.
50 under 50. We need
Oh my God,
we need a
that's
new
crazy.
category. Yeah.
Yeah, we need a new category. So, all right. Well, so you do a lot of writing, and now your current job is manager for the Utah Center. Utah Center for the Book, which is what is your day job? Like, what do you do when you go to work?
Yeah, that's a lot. So about 60% of my job is curating, organizing the Utah Humanities Book Festival that's been around forever. And so that takes up a lot because we cover the entire state. The book festival covers the entire state from October 1st to October 31st every year during National Book Month.
And you have to spend the rest of the year planning it.
And you have to spend the rest of the year planning
Okay.
with partners like yourself,
Yep.
like everybody else in Ogden,
Yeah.
which is the best. Ogden's best. So you spend the year planning. And so last year, I think we had 142 events with 106 authors at I think I did the numbers for our final report today. It was like 72 different venues across the state. I mean, it's a lot of work, but
How do you
really cool.
What are you organizing? Are you using like
Airtable?
yeah?
Airtable, yeah.
You like it?
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Airtable. It's
Okay.
great for everything.
Yeah.
Budgeting, timelines.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, organization.
Because that's a lot of, you're just naming these numbers, but that's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
A lot of different places and
honorariums and payment and
yeah,
venue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot. But Airtable's it's fantastic. If you
Okay.
want a great spreadsheet
Yeah.
online thing that you can share with people, and it's really, really good. There's so many. I think I'm probably use 10% of what it can actually do, but it works really, really well.
Well, I think what people want to know really is, as an author who has published multiple books, and you now have a awesome job with a nonprofit that does things nice and fun for Utah. Um, so so they're like, wait, you have published books, but you don't. That's not like what you do for a living.
I wish.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but that's really kind of funny. It's because like this job. So that's 60% of the job. The other 40% of the job is split up where I'm working nationally with other Center for the Books across the country, and we're building a network. We're building author networks. I choose the Utah Great Reads Awards, which Great Reads from Great Places that they go to the Library of Congress every year. So we pick 2 of them, and so I'm working nationally and regionally to spread literacy, to spread reading,
Yeah.
to do these with the Library of Congress. And the Library of Congress Center for the Book. So I mean, that's just cool. That's just fun, actually. And then I set up or host or support or whatever. Every event is different, but multiple different events throughout the state, throughout the year that aren't in October as well. So November 1, which is our fiscal year, till October 1, there are events across the state that we're supporting. You know, Coyote Tales in southern Utah, or you know, the American Fork Literary Day, or Utah Poetry Festival. We support. So there's stuff that's going on all year long that we support, either financially or with that I jump in and help organize. And so it's there's, let's just say there's not really a cap on how much work I could do.
Yeah. You self cap it.
You self cap.
Yeah.
Because you could work all day every day. Just
How rewarding is it at the end of October to, or maybe when you see like one of the authors give a good chat, or you know what I mean? Like how rewarding is it for you to be like, oh, this was great. This one turned out awesome.
Yeah, it's really rewarding because we made a shift last year. And if you were not familiar with the festival, we made a shift where we're doing things now regionally, restructured the whole thing. And so when I went to last year, this time in January, I was asking everybody in their community, say for Ogden or Salt Lake or Cedar City or Park City, what do you want? You know, we've been doing this book festival for a really long time, and we've been trying to do this plug and play method where we bring people in and we say, oh, Ogden hosts this person, and Ogden jumps in and is amazing, or Park City jumps in is amazing. But last year I really went out and I said, what do you want, Park City? What do you want, Colville? What do you want, Magna? What do you want, Cedar City? And that, I think, at the end of this last book festival, in November 1, I think we saw a rise in attendance by doing the numbers 40 to 80% per event across the state.
Huge
for the entire state, up to 60% of attendance raise from the previous year when I took it over, and then years before that. And I think it was because these local communities, and you saw this a lot here, these local communities invested in their week. They said, this is our week of Utah Humanities Book Festival. We chose who we want, what programming we want. Kase just helps out, get us the author, pays, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then working with me, we put it together. We put the week together. We rolled it out. We said, okay, we're going to have stuff for kids, stuff for adults. And I think it was at the end of the month that I said, wow, I think people really, really invested in that. And you could see at the end of each of those clusters, people were tired, but people were really excited. And we're already lined up next year's for where the regions are going to be, because I was getting calls in December saying, when's our week? When is our week to start planning? Yeah. We want this author. Can we do it? And my answer to that is we can try. We can ask. But yeah, it's super rewarding. That was really, really cool because people were just really excited about just doing their own thing.
Well, they get to own their own thing, and and every community is unique, and that's every neighborhood's unique, and so if you tailor it to what they tailor their own, then that's fantastic. Now, do they kick in budget, or how does that work? Does it all come from you? Like if they want a certain artist and you're like, oh, I don't know, that's a big name. Yeah. Like we might have to have some help on that one or something.
Sure.
How does that work?
That's the great. And when you talked about earlier, like that's a big spreadsheet. Every different event and every different partner we use is different.
Okay.
Like Treehouse here in Ogden.
Yeah.
Right. They had a 2-day festival, with young adult authors, middle grade authors. And, they put all the money up for that. They did all that work. We helped with marketing. We put it in the festival.
Awesome.
But so the treehouse is one extent where they're coming with their own funds. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're bringing in authors. They're helping on one end. On the other end is like somebody's like, I'm new to community service. I'm new to this literary scene in Utah, but I really want to try. I'm in Helper. So Helper, for instance, they've got
Helper's crushing it, I hear.
Helper's so cool. And
Yeah.
Olivia Rodriguez there, she has this like reading series that started with Nancy Teckets, and we're like, okay, what can we do? And she's like, well, just can I bring somebody in? I'm like, yes, I can find budget to help you bring somebody in. And this year Helper's going to have their own cluster of 3 days of writing in Helper. And so it's like it's one end is where like the Treehouse, where they're formidable, right? They know what they're doing. They have their audience. They have money. They know how to write grants. They're successful for a reason. And we just help out in any way that we possibly can. Maybe I have a link to an author that they want. And then there's the other side where it's like somebody really wants to do something, they've never really done it before. Southern Utah Book Festival last year had never done it before. It was two retired counselors, high school counselors, said we want to create this festival in Southern Utah. And they'd never done it. And so I spent a week down there just working with them on how to create a festival, how to pay authors, how to bring audiences in, how to organize all these things. And then I stood in front of their city council to get their equivalent of a ramp grant for them. So it's like every partner is different. And they had in 2 days in Southern Utah, they had 26 events, 15 or 16 different authors. It went on all day.
So you're not to all of them. These are all going on at the same time, but in different cities. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's different times. That's the goal.
Okay.
Right. The goal is different times, different places throughout the month, so that if you are in Cedar City and you're looking at Ogden's schedule or you're looking at Salt Lake's schedule, you're like, I can get up here, I can get up there, and I can spend a few days. And that's the goal, is so they're not overlapping. Some will overlap. Like this next year, Moab's going to overlap with Park City. Whatever. That's not a big deal. They're not
kind of far apart.
Different audiences, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super. I think this year was the first year. I'm going into this will be my third festival coming up this year. That
was fast.
I was like, wow, that was cool.
Your first one, was like right before, right?
Yeah, October. I think I started in May, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it worked out. It worked. We pulled it off. That was the first one.
That's what matters. Yeah, it went through.
Yeah, it pulled it off. But this next one, that last year I came in to just like, what can we do? And it was really that idea, like, what does this community want? And they were ready. Every community was ready. And that Southern Utah one, we got them to a point. Basically, they're moving to September and moving out of the festival, so they're not even going to be part of the festival next year.
They're just going to do their own.
They're going to do their own thing, and I'm like, that's fantastic. That's my job, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have ownerships over festivals,
right?
And we don't have ownerships over books and authors and stuff. So now, like, we're going to lunch tomorrow at Red Iguana at 11, and we're moving them to our grant program, so they don't come from my budget, but they're moving them to my grant program. But I'm going to help them with programming.
Yeah.
So that's part of that other part of the year where. Yeah, it's not part of the festival, but I'm helping them with their programming in September. Chances are they're going to get money from us to help out. We kind of just showed them how to do it last year, and now they're flying free.
And they saw like what is possible, and they're like,
possible.
You know what? Let's make it big.
Yeah. They want eventually for it to be like a 2-day, and that's why they're moving to September.
Yeah,
is they want it to be a 2-day festival with outdoor booths and music and in Cedar City, which I think is rad. I think it'll be perfect down there in September. And now they've got the first year under their belt, and they can go do it. So it's so cool. It's really, really cool. I taught for 17 years and before this job, and teaching is rewarding because I have cliff notes for the questions you texted me.
You're welcome.
we can get to that because I really came prepared.
Yeah.
And
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I was excited. I thought about it a lot on the way over. And teaching's rewarding, but this, I feel like I've been training for this job my whole life, just didn't know it existed.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I was doing it through like community service with Ogden
Arts and
everything like that. And and just getting in writing and getting to know the writing community across the state. And I feel like I've been training for my whole life. I think I'm doing good. I think my personnel reviews have been good. So
Well, that's good.
yeah.
My personnel reviews
it's
are
still a nonprofit.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, that
You
doesn't
can
come
drop,
with
drop your mic just a little bit. We want to see your.
that doesn't
beautiful
come with
face.
money.
There you go. Well, just enough, a little bit. And we got to make that happen so you get more. So, but you came up with the idea of, because we had produced a podcast together for years,
which I miss,
and
I miss it a lot actually.
Well, yeah, and so we've put
we've made it more professional,
a different version.
Well, I mean, it was
of
better professional.
Yeah,
it's different.
It's different. It's a different version.
It's a totally different version.
Yeah, and it's to promote what you do for
Utah Humanities.
For Utah Humanities and the book festival in the fall. But this is kind of ongoing throughout the year. So, well, the other thing. So there's that, and I was going to ask you how like what you thought worked with that.
Yeah.
What you might want to see in the future. But also, I was thinking. So I used to, rock climb and or trail run back in the day. And whenever I go to a festival where it's like a climbing fast, or I'm watching trail run and the people come across the finish line all day, I'm like of two minds, where I'm super inspired. And then also like, man, I'm a piece of crap. I need to get, cause do you feel like that when you're going to the ridings and the festivals, you're like, I am inspired to write more? Or like what happens when you watch these awesome riders do their thing?
That's interesting. I think it's a total there's 90% of the time there's a total disconnect. Sometimes there's just a little bit of jealousy.
Because you're working?
Because I'm working and I help put it together. And so, I mean, I got my purpose thing. You asked me my purpose thing, right?
We're not there yet, though.
Okay, so shit. Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Yeah. So
back
no.
Okay.
This is totally cool. No, 90% I'm like, this is rad. You
Yeah.
know, like people, and we can go there. We'll talk more about it with the purpose thing. But there is 10% of the time when you have the big authors, the ones that fill, auditoriums.
More commercialized.
Yeah, well, they've done their work and they live on their writing. They live. They don't need jobs. Like I said, I'm so happy here. It's really, really cool. Like I count this probably as work. Sitting here with you right now.
Right.
I'm on the clock, and
right.
Because I'm, now the director for the Center for the Book instead of the manager. Woohoo!
Ooh,
I know,
that's
moving
a big
up,
deal.
moving up. Again, it doesn't come with money. But at the same time, no, there are times. If there's anything, it's those times where it's not jealousy. It's
inspiration. No,
it's for me, it's like it's really crazy. Like we talked about 40 under 40, right? And at 39 years old, I think Beyond the Book of Craniocystosis, Beyond the Grip of Craniocystosis was under contract or had just published. And I had never thought I would publish a book traditionally published with a publisher and all that kind of stuff. And at that time, I could have never imagined being 4 books in and having what I have now.
Yeah.
And so it's like all about perspective in that sense that I would have, if I were me a decade ago, looking at my career now, I would have been envious in the way I'm talking about that. I'm looking at those authors.
This is crazy that you said this, because yesterday's podcast was with a bodybuilder. He's a IFBB pro, said the exact same thing. In other words, he was like, 10 years ago, I could not have imagined I would be where I am.
Right.
Like it would, like you didn't even think about it.
Right.
And I think that there's a lesson there.
There is a lesson. There's a huge lesson, and it's 10 years. It's 15 years worth of work. Even though that happened, that was 10. Because there was 4 years worth of work before the first book came out, and then there was school before. Whatever.
Yeah.
20 years worth of work. But it's about perspective in the sense, and I think I know it. Maybe that I'm 49 years old and have a year left till I hit that 50.
Yeah.
I still have hope that will be me, and I think that's what it is. It's like, I still believe I still write I've been writing consistently 4 to 6 days a week for 15 years. And there's a lot sitting on my laptop that's not out there, a lot.
Yeah.
But I believe that if I'm still there every morning, like I was this morning, every morning, like I was yesterday morning, or the morning before that in itself is belief in the future, right? That in itself is belief that at maybe 59, I'm the guy filling the whole auditorium.
That'd be rad.
And maybe I won't be. Maybe I won't be. But at the same time, the guy at 39 could have never imagined the guy at 49.
Yeah.
And so it's not jealousy. It's more of like, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm a better writer than that person is. But I don't mean it that way. I just,
But you're
have
telling
to,
yourself, I'm at least that good.
I'm at least that good.
Yeah.
And I think if with a little bit of stroke of luck,
Yeah.
and luck in that way of like, what is the harder you work, the luckier you get.
But you're doing the habit thing of writing every day. Like you're putting yourself in
Yeah.
the position to succeed.
Yeah.
By writing every day.
Yeah. 15 years. I started writing every day in 2009.
Okay. So
not every day, 4 to 6 days a week.
That's pretty much every day. I mean,
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a
I
lot
don't.
of writing.
I don't write on weekends anymore.
Okay. So then, as a writer and a creative, this is what people want to know. How have you designed your life to fit your brain?
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because you start work. Your first job was not an author. Your first job was and so you're like, you have to go through the whole thing, and it's like, well, this isn't for me. I have to figure out me, and you do that by going through different jobs and different through school and things, and then eventually you're like, okay, how am I designing my life so that I'm fulfilled?
Right, it's a great question. Before I started that in 2009, when that, like, I've been writing since 2002, like for small newspapers, or worked with a sports publishing house as an editor after that, and then I was the managing editor for the Department of Defense Software and Engineering Journal, which I wasn't really and then I was the publication coordinator for the Tacoma Rainiers in Seattle, in Tacoma. I wasn't writing, but I was writing adjacent, if that makes any sense. I mean, I was either editing.
You're in the industry,
right? I was in the industry, but I wasn't writing. But
that was work.
That was work, and I was editing, or I was, and I was writing short little things about baseball players or stuff, and it wasn't good. And in 2009,
it wasn't good.
I went back to school because I said I really want to write. I want to be a writer. Because in those rare glimpses in that from 2001 to like 2008, 2009, I'd write a small column or something that was kind of good. Maybe a paragraph in a column, or a paragraph in a stupid like program for baseball that was recapping the night before, writing about baseball. And it was decent. And there was moments there where I was like, man, I think I could, like, that was really, that feeling of creating something that sounded good, that was written well, was really, really cool.
Shout out to good sports writers.
Yeah.
There's some awesome ones out there.
There's some really good sports writers out there. We had one on here before, Greg Lancaster, a good sports writer. And Michael Finkel.
Yeah.
Was a great.
Oh, that's right. He was.
That's why he got into everything. Yeah.
Yes.
But there were glimpses of like, and it was kind of like, I knew I wanted to do it. So I went back to school I had a job. I didn't need to go to school. I wanted to learn how to write. So I went back to school to learn how to write better. And at the time, it was 2009, and I was working full time. I was actually adjuncting at like 4 different community colleges in Seattle. So I was teaching like 5 or 6 different classes at 4 different campuses. I was driving, 75, 80 miles a day to just make a living.
Yeah.
And so the only time I could write was at 4:30 a.m. And because once my day started, I was freeway. They called us freeway flyers, because we would fly between different different colleges and teach. And so I, started writing early, and it became that habit. It became a habit because every morning after I'd hammer out 1,000 words, I was getting that feeling that I got over that momentary feeling, that glimpse of every once in a while of the previous 8 years of, that was good. That was, I wrote something today, I was proud of it. And I would start my day with that feeling of, I wrote something today, I'm proud of it. I'm going to come back tomorrow. And that's how the writing thing happened. It was like, well, and then we had our son a year and a half after that. And then you know how it is when you have kids, like you don't know what time they're going to wake up. You don't know they are your life, especially when they're little. And so, some mornings I would get up at 4:30 and I would write 10 minutes and the kid was up, right? And he's awake, and now he's 13 and man, he could sleep till noon. But that's where that habit started. And then it became like, all of a sudden, it's like marathon training, or it's like ultra training, or it's like training for the Ironman. It's any of these things. It's like you're getting up and you're writing 200 words with the belief, and you've heard me say this before on our podcast, with the belief these 200 words someday, just like 2-mile running today, is going to equal the day that you hit the marathon. You're going to have that built up. It's going to be there. You don't see it today, but you have to believe that 4 months from now, or 6 months from now, or 8 months from now, that 200 words every day is going to turn into 75,000 words. And it's that belief every morning that I did something good this morning and I feel good about it. And you just kind of, and that's what I say. It goes back to the idea of 49 I haven't talked about 40 under 40 ever like this much. But now it's like it's coming. But it's like that guy there has been writing 4 to 6 days a week for at least since, but with 4 years before that too, and 5 years before that too. And that's how it's I would miss it if I skipped it.
Yeah.
It would completely.
So you still do it. That's like your routine.
6 days a week, 4 to 6 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I miss it, I'm to the point where there was a point like before I published anything, essays or whatever, that I thought I'd never get published. And if I missed one of those days, then I would never come back to it. That was fear.
Oh.
That was flat out fear. I was like,
really?
If I miss a day, or if I miss 2 days, what if I don't come back? Now I'm to the point like I know I'm always coming back. I know I'm always coming back. There might not. I don't have a book contract right now. I don't have an essay under contract. I got nothing. Nothing's coming down the pike. Wait, I hope so. Put it out there, universe. But I'm still writing. I'm right now again because there's no contract. I'm writing for me, and that's been 90% of it, anyways. 90% that's on my laptop is I'm writing for myself.
Speaking, my mom chimed in with a comment and said 10 years ago, is your memoir writer? Your memoir writer. She said 10 years ago, I never thought I'd be writing a memoir and enjoying it. So like it, you changed in 10 years.
Keep going, Linda.
That's Kase's advice. Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, totally.
So before I ask you the really good questions, I want to know where the Utah Jazz will place in the upcoming draft.
They said, I saw today, it was 14%. Just the bottom 3 teams, all 3 have a 14% chance.
They're all tied. The bottom 3 are tied for.
Right.
I don't think they want to fall out of 3, right?
No.
Like you want to be top 1 or 2. I think as far as I've heard in this draft, unless there's 3 just killer dudes.
I don't know.
Have you noticed or paid attention?
I'm so mad at the Jazz. I don't even know what to do. I heard a quote today that was like, it's impossible to play basketball in a hockey arena. And that's what's happening right now because we've got a pretty good hockey team.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that part's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that going to happen? Is like next year the hockey team's just going to be more? There's no way it's going to be more popular than the Jazz. The Jazz fan base is huge.
Yeah,
but it's like if Jazz doesn't do something soon.
Yeah,
it's getting the good thing is I guess most of the games are not blowouts. They don't look like they're getting killed. They're kind of fun to watch, and then they lose, and they lose again, and they lose, and you're like, they're so close, and that's is that the parity in the NBA too? You think a little bit, or it just?
I think other teams are probably playing down to them, and then the fourth quarter, like we shouldn't lose this game.
You're probably
let's go win it.
Yeah, you're probably.
You're probably I think that's because we've seen our own Jazz team do that.
Oh, too many times they've done that. Man. Okay, so as you've gone through life, as you said, you're coming up on the big 50 in a year, and so has that got you thinking more about your definite major purpose, or are you just, or did I spur you to think about it, or is it you thinking about that on your own as you age?
No, both. First off, you can't say like purpose without referencing Steve Martin's Special Purpose from The Jerk. It's like,
wow, I haven't heard the reference yet. That's so good.
Oh my gosh, Grandma, I found my special purpose. See a doctor and get rid of it.
Well, other people call it different things too. So there's the major purpose, the special purpose. There's meaningful mission. From Lewis Howes calls it that in his book, Greatest Mindset, and then Robert Greene's calls it life's task. So it's all like, what is your thing?
Yeah.
Right?
So I have 4.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, you sent me the text. I'm gonna send you guys, let you guys know behind the scenes.
Yep.
Brandon gave me homework, and I was serious about it.
Well, this is so good. And
Okay, so one is health. One is health. One is like 49 hitting 50. I kind of want my 50s to be like, I want to be fitter and healthier than I've ever been, and that's a lot. Like I've been an endurance athlete since I was 24 years old. Marathons, ultras, triathlons, everything. But I want 50 to be the best. That decade to be the best. And so
you're diving in right already.
I'm already, yeah. I mean, and that's another. It's really interesting too. Is like, well, we can talk. Maybe it's a different podcast, but it's like I'm looking at 49 to 50, and I'm calling it like no waste. I'm looking at it as a no wasted day year.
Mm-hmm.
So from now until I hit 50, if I want my 50s to be the fittest, healthiest decade of my life, then I can't just roll up on 50 and be like, let's do this, right? So I'm going to
give it a little head start.
I'm getting a head start from 49 to 50 because, 50 counts as part of the decade. So it's got to count on day one that it's my fittest decade.
Okay.
So my goal is no wasted days. No wasted days from now until December 31st. But it's really nice with my birthday being December 31st because it's
my gosh. Yeah.
It's like I started this year January 1 with everybody else, and I'm just going to push through.
God, cheater.
I know. and everybody can celebrate. So that's the goal. That's the goal with fitness. And it's going to be a different perspective too. It's like in the past, I've always wanted to be leaner because, I wanted to run faster and that kind of stuff. And now I'm looking at like, I just a lot of stuff that I've been reading is our bone density and muscle at this age is even more important than being able to run a marathon. Yeah. So like I am 6 or 7 pounds heavier than I was 2 months ago. I'm throwing up weight, and this is not a flex. It's like
but you're flexing.
It's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
I haven't lifted this. Yeah, I haven't lifted this heavy since I was in my late 30s, mid 30s. I'm benching and squatting as much as I did then. But the truth is I probably could have done it in my 40s, but I had a different like fitness goal. Now I'm like, I want to be. I don't care. I don't care what the scale says, which is the first time in my life I think I'm ever doing that, which is a huge shift in my mindset. Mm-hmm. I don't care what the scales. I'm not going to care. I'm not going to weigh myself. It's going to be about how my clothes fits. And I know everybody's read these, like, don't, yeah, but I'm really, really trying to make that, like, I'm going to lift weights. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to I'm not going to care about being skinny. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to care about the scale. I want to be the fittest person, and whatever that fit person is, if he's 10 pounds heavier than he's ever been before, I'm going to be okay with that. And that itself is a whole mind shift is that I'm going to be okay with the scale saying I'm 10 pounds heavier than I've ever been as a runner or as a triathlete. And that's going to be hard. It's already been a little bit hard seeing the scale go up. But, I'm taking my creatine.
Well, that's good. And high protein diet?
High protein diet. Yeah. And, no red meat. I'm not eating the red meat or the cheeses and stuff, just a lot of chicken. That's a whole mind shift for me that I'm no longer looking at the scale. And I'm redefining what fit is going to be for me from 49 to 50, and then through my 50s and 60s, it's going to be as fit as I can be. But it's not going to be marathons. Yeah, it's not going to be. I got knees, and I've got arthritis. Really bad arthritis in one of them already. And I'm reshifting. It's not going to be 4-hour training runs. It's not going to be. It's going to be.
Do you cardio? Are you doing cardio?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I do cardio every day.
Okay, but it's not. Are you running or?
I'm running, biking, swimming, still.
Okay.
But I'm looking at it from a perspective of I don't have to do 2 hours. Yeah. I can get what I need in 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And I think that's a whole shift of I'm not looking to be fit the same way that I've been fit for 25 to 30 years. I'm looking for a different kind of fitness because you read all the stuff. We got to have our bones got to be strong. Yeah. Muscle is really important at this age. So there's this whole shift, and the whole shift has to do with like looking at the scale and saying, I don't care what the scale says.
Yeah, like dumbbells, kettlebells. What are you working with?
I love kettlebells.
Yeah.
I do 1 day a week. Right now, we're going way into the weeds with this.
This is great. Yeah.
1 day a week with heavy strength training. So I'll go to the club.
Okay.
And throw up as much weight as I possibly can, and without getting injured. And then 2 days a week is kettlebell work. So 3 strength training days a week, and then 6 days a week of cardio.
So with your cardio though, this is are you?
I'm not saying this is a plan for anybody else. I'm no expert in it.
No, but this is fun because we're like same age. So
yeah.
But I've heard sprinting and stuff is also helpful for your bones and
Yeah.
muscles. Are you doing that, or are you just doing like steady state cardio?
I'm staying with what I've always done, and that is like if I were training for a marathon or something like that, I'll have a long run each week. I'll have interval work. I'll have a tempo day, and I'll have a recovery day. So 4 days of that stuff that I've done forever. That's easy for me, I just kind of it's routine.
Yeah.
I just today's my interval work, today's my tempo day.
Right.
And then I'll swim and I'll bike and got on the treadmill yesterday. My knee was hurting. The arthritis comes back every once in a while. So
Do you think the lifting will take care of that or help?
yeah, I think it helps.
Yeah.
I think it helps. But I've got to take a couple weeks off the running now. I'll swim and bike and walking. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Right. Our age is funny. They're like, get out there and walk. And I'm like, I know, but
well, all the cool kids are walking out.
I know.
To lose weight.
Right.
Because not that you don't lose weight with running, but it burns more calories, but also makes you hungry, and people tend to eat a lot. And so they say that slow, it's a fast paced walk, but that, you're walking and you're losing fat and you're not getting super hungry after.
Right.
So,
and it's like meditative.
Yeah.
Like today, I don't have my workout in today. My knee's bugging me. I don't want to push it. I'm getting smarter.
That's good.
It takes a really long time. But I don't want to take 4 months off.
Right.
So today is going to be a long walk. And I talked to my agent this morning. A new book. She just read the new book and she loved it. But I've got some work to do. I've got some revisions to do.
Yeah.
And so walk. Oh my gosh. Because a run, you're out there and you're tired,
It's harder to think when you're running.
And a walk, though, you go out for an hour and, man, you can solve a lot of problems in an hour walking outside, especially today when it's 40 and clear and there's not a lot of smog.
Yeah.
But yeah, walking too. Today's is going to do, maybe I'll get my wife to walk. She walks too in the afternoon. Maybe I'll bother her. But that's the thing is like she likes to go on her own. I get that. That's
because you think and you solve problems.
You think and you solve problems and you get that meditative kind of feeling.
Okay, so that's one.
Okay, two. All right, so purpose. I thought about this. I think it's threefold in one answer. I feel like I have 3 careers over the last, 16 years. I've been working since I was 16. Starting to get Jake's over the top and then after that
which rip Jakes, by the way.
I know they were the best. And then of course the Chronic. I worked at the Chronic at the Supersonic Car Wash for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and now that place can't hold.
Yeah,
it's closed too. So.
Yeah, it's closed. Yeah, and people love to call it the Chronic. Probably. So I worked there. So I've been working my whole life. But I worked all the way through college, and but I feel like my career in the last 20 years has been either teaching. I think writing has always been there. I consider it a career. Don't ask a writer if a writer thinks they're a writer. This is advice to everybody. Don't ask them, hey, you still writing? You still doing your hobby? You're like, okay.
You've been writing much lately?
And then this kind of community stuff that I've been doing, either as a volunteer or now as the director for the Center for the Book.
Yeah.
And, with teaching, the purpose, over the years was, as a writer or an English teacher, when I was teaching writing, was to give young writers, budding writers, hopefully that confidence to find their voice, to believe that they have something to say and that they're important, that they have space in this world. And then introduce them to other people who have something to say, so that they feel like less alone in this world. That's what's great about writing. That's what's great about being a writer and reading and everything, is that you feel less alone when you find out that other people are going through the same stuff that you're going through. Mm-hmm. And so with students, it was always like, you have a voice, you're important, because other people, what if a fellow classmate reads your stuff and says, oh my gosh, I went through that too, and I thought I was the only one. And then they feel less alone in this world. Or your voice is important because we haven't heard it before, because everybody's voice is important. So it was teaching, it was fostering that voice and giving space to it, and hopefully giving some confidence. With this job, the community service stuff, it's with the Utah Humanities, was, like I said, I feel like I've been working towards this job forever. It is giving literal space. Like, is it a microphone? Is it a podcast that you do that we've done for so many years?
Yeah.
That's why I missed Literally so much, because it was so free and we could have anybody on. You know? and giving authors the opportunity to share their voice, right? They say, oh man, here's your voice. Especially how many poets did we do, right? Like, and people don't just pick up poetry, but how many poets did we do? And it was every poet we walked away like, holy crap, that was so good.
Yeah, they're so smart.
They're so smart. And I was like, oh, give them a space to have voice. Give them to share their voice. And that voice on the other side is other people listen to it and say, I'm not alone. You know? And so I'm like, I'm thinking about the question that you asked about purpose. And I'm like, while I've defined it in my own brain, but looking back over the last 20 years and now moving forward with this job, it's the same. It's giving voice, giving somebody a voice, hearing their voice, and then sharing it with somebody else so they feel less alone. And writing as a career is the exact same thing. It is, I write every day, and you know, I'm not rich. I don't make the bestseller list. I don't. And that's a lot of us out there. But yet, and that's that's the thing. But man, you get somebody who writes you on Instagram and says, I don't know if I told this story. I had somebody write me on Instagram with Wild Grasses, Castaway, like in June. And she's like, I just got laid off. She's from Texas. And I just got laid off, and the librarian suggested your book. And the book just really made being laid off and struggling right now a lot better. You know?
Wow.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, can I share this with everybody?
Yeah.
That's what's the cool part about being a writer. And you don't see that when you're in your basement writing every morning. But if you feel that idea that you could personally do it, you have your voice, but if you can personally help somebody else feel less alone in the world because of your voice, then that's success to me. And that's what goes all the way back to what we were talking about. Like, you know, like we look at a book festival. How do you feel? Is it inspiring? Those moments are really inspiring. And at 39 years old, I would have never imagined somebody reaching out to me from Instagram and saying something like that about something that I've written. And so I think looking at all those things, it's always been the same. It's like with students, what is your voice? Use it. It's important. Share it, because it'll make somebody feel better, and it'll make you feel better, and you're important. Students if any writing teachers, that's what should be their number one goal.
Yeah.
With community service, same thing. Given a space, podcasting, Poet Flow at Lighthouse for so many years. You know, with my current job, giving microphones, connecting readers to writers so that everybody feels like we're all in this together. You know, and then as a writer, it's the exact same. Those moments of, I'm going to share my story. A lot of times I don't feel like I have anything to say, right? But if one person comes out to me and says, yeah, you did have something to say and it affected me positively, because then that's it. You know, that's the goal. That's the purpose. And I think I naturally just, you know, I fell into it. I mean, I just fell into all of these things.
Well, yeah,
but it's part of it.
The counselor in high school wasn't like, okay, is this what you're going to do when you grow up? And then mention like Utah.
Nobody knows it exists,
like
right? Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
I just went through this with my daughter yesterday.
Yeah.
So we went to the school and it was like, okay, you're gonna go in high school. What do you want to do? And they have a lot more classes now in high school, but there's also so many jobs that you just have they don't like. And you don't know what's going to exist in 10, 20 years either.
No.
When you're in the workforce. Like
not at all. Or what jobs won't exist. So they're like teaching kids right now jobs that probably might not be there. You know? Like my typing teacher from 9th grade, she's not teaching typing anymore. You know, I mean, I don't. We broke her. But,
it was you.
It was. I know exactly who it was. Somebody had misspelled one word.
Yeah.
And we passed around those little floppy disks because we had a system. There was like 14 assignments, and everybody could each of us would do one, and then we'd pass it and copy. And somebody misspelled one word on one of the assignments, and all of us had the same word misspelled.
Oh,
so they caught
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I failed typing.
Yeah.
It was pretty good though.
That's hilarious that you failed typing.
Yeah, failed typing. But yeah, when it comes to purpose, it's like, defining it is good. I think it felt good to define it, but I think I've said these things before, but in different contexts.
Well, that's I hope you can appreciate that's the idea behind the podcast.
Yeah.
And so, and it goes back to I read Think and Grow Rich. I'm gonna have to figure out when I first read it, but it's got to be 25 years ago. And and in there he defines is what is your definite major purpose, and it changes as you go through life and make life changes and stuff, but it does make you think like, yeah, what is my purpose? What in the hell am I doing here, and how can I help others, and what's the bigger picture? And so that comes down to how do you define success. And so when you have the purpose, and then is there a part where you're like, oh, okay, I am successful?
Yeah.
Do you have a definition for or what you're looking for with the success, or just kind of what you already explained as far as helping others have a voice?
Yeah. There's always another mountain to climb. I think that it would be a mistake to not find that next mountain,
Yeah.
I really think that next goal is important. Like the 39-year-old me as a writer or as whatever would have said, I'm successful.
Yeah.
3 or 4 books out there, and they win awards. They don't make a lot of money, but they win awards and people read them, and I get emails on Instagram. It's cool.
Yeah.
Traditionally published. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would have said that was success a decade ago. And I think it is success. I do. I really do. In many ways. But I hope we're young, I hope 50 is young for me. We've all lost people too young. With me, like multiple people in the last few years, when they should be here with us. So I hope 50 is young for us. So, it's a gift to grow old. And I hope that, that I think it'd be a mistake not to find another mountain, climb another mountain. Physically, I'm going to try that, obviously.
Yeah.
And then with career, I'm really lucky that I do work in a place, and teaching was always great. I always loved teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's more successes to be had, and they're only successes if you're able to say, I want them. I want to achieve that. I want to go get it. And why do we do that as humans? I don't know. But I think it would be a mistake to not set another. Do I want a bestseller? Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep writing. Will it happen? I don't know. I want another book contract. I don't even know right now. That's a thing.
That's a weird life too. As an author,
I don't even know. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think as an author, I mean, as a creative, I feel it, but as an author, if you're, there's no contracts, there's nothing in the pipes. How do you stay disciplined? Like, how do you find the drive to is it, I know you've been doing it forever now and now it's a habit, but is there times you're like, dude, why the hell am I even doing this?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been whole years. I think 2017, I think you've heard this story before, but many haven't. In 2017, I was ready to give up,
Yeah.
It's a lot of rejection. And I didn't because I missed it. Because it makes me whole. It's that simple. Right now, I feel a little limbo. I mean, my agent has a novel, and that's great, and she loves it, and we're working, and the work is part of it too, though. The work is really part of it. Completing a novel is cool. Writing a book is cool. Especially when you have like an idea for a book in your head, and you're like, it's not going. It's gonna stick there until I get this thing out.
Yeah.
But that's the creatives.
Yeah.
Creatives are mostly like that. But yeah, of course. There's a lot of it. There's a lot. Like, I think the other question you sent me on your text, can we bring it up?
Yeah.
About ego.
Yeah.
And staying present.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a writer and you have ego, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I had to punch the stomach this week when it came to writing. I've had a lot of punches in the last couple of years. It's really funny because the writing life is this really weird, and the publishing is this really long thing. Castaway came out in May. It's been great to travel and talk about that book and all that stuff. But that book was contracted 2.5 years ago. and I've had a lot of rejection in the last 2 years since that book was contracted. So I'm kind of in that limbo space that you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think people realize it takes that long for
Takes
the
that
books
long,
to come out
yeah.
and stuff.
I think the last 2 years have been all rejection. It's really weird because a book came out,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of there right now, like, especially when you've got a few books and you're like, well, a lot of people would maybe say, like you're saying, maybe I'm done.
Yeah.
Maybe I've done enough.
The question, I had to look it up because I forgot what I put.
I remembered.
How do you subvert the ego to be present and live in the moment? And it comes from, I'm reading Infinite Intelligence right now, and he's talking about how the ego, your fear usually comes from the ego.
Sure.
And so
you're talking like Freudian stuff.
So how do you depress that or whatever so that you can continue? And because so back in the day, I used to go to acting auditions, and you get rejected and rejected and rejected, and then you're like, I'm kind of done doing the rejection thing. So you have to suppress that and just keep going so that you can, because you love the work. I
think the work's a big part of it.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question for you. This one's interesting because you are an author, and so you have books that after you're gone, people can read and think, oh, that's what Kase was writing about at that time. That's insight into your brain, because the question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Sure.
But as we all know, there's so many authors out there who are famous authors whose novels are one thing, and their personalities were another.
Yeah.
And so,
well, Neil Gaiman, he's in deep trouble right now.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
it's like,
yes.
I mean, they're out there and they're not dead. They're happening.
Well, right. So how do you want to be remembered, or how do you want your writing to be remembered?
I want my writing to be remembered twofold, that it was entertaining.
Which it is.
Great sense of humor. I hope that people like people love stories are such a part of like part of humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing stories, on cave walls and over fires for how many thousands of years. Stories are important.
Yeah.
And especially, God, when times are hard. I hope people say, I picked up that book and I really got into the story and I enjoyed it. And maybe I disappeared from my life for a little bit. That's how I want my writing to be. If I say something like profound, that was on accident. No, you know what I mean? It's
right,
like I would never put myself in that place. But hopefully that I was entertaining and that I was authentic. I think those are the two.
Yeah, and I think you're successful with that.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, I'm not here to change the world. Entertaining and authentic, and maybe a different voice than other people have read. That's the goal. With myself, I don't want to be Neil Gaiman. Sorry, I would rather, I don't want to be these authors I don't want to be an author that somebody has to separate the person from the work. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in that conversation. Mm-hmm. I want to be remembered as a good father and a good husband and a good friend. Mm-hmm. More than anything. I think maybe that comes with age too, right?
Right.
You come around this 50 and
and
you think, God, what is really, really important? My work is really important. But I've got a 13-year-old son who's been flu ridden on our couch for 3 days, and making tomato soup and grilled cheese today. That was pretty cool. Because I'm able to do that. I'm really lucky. But I don't want to be one of those authors for sure that, I don't want to be Dave Grohl either. I mean, I love Dave. No, but as an author, hopefully I was entertaining and I was authentic and I made somebody feel less alone in the world. As a person, I just want, I want to be a good dad, a good husband, and a good friend.
Yeah.
A good son, a good brother.
Yeah.
I mean, me. It's like, I will talk about my writing, but you have to put me on a show to do it.
Right. Yeah.
You
normally don't.
We're not going to go to
so.
dinner, and I'm not going to bore the hell out of you when
Yeah.
it comes to like talking about writing and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather talk about other people's writing, and that's something too. Maybe I would love to be remembered as somebody who helped other people get their writing out there, get their voice out there, give them one reader that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Career wise, but yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
totally. So then now's the time though. What are you working on now?
So I'm going to do some revisions.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about this morning, and I've got about 3 weeks to do those. And working on the book fest.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're already lining up our clusters, which is awesome. Working on great reads for the Library of Congress. I've just hit word 50,000 on a new essay collection, brand new words that I'm going to shop out to like university presses, because,
Interesting.
yeah, it's not, they're not money makers, but a brand new collection of essays.
What's the topic?
It's fatherhood,
Okay.
my dad, that I haven't written about till now.
Okay.
And so fatherhood, my dad, Mormonism, Utah, Catholicism, leaving Catholicism, all of those fun things.
Are you? As you age, are you going back to Catholicism?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think fully ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless there's a few things they got to change. And then if they do, they change those things. Maybe I'll think about it.
Then you're it.
Yeah.
The case is back.
Yeah. And I have a list. I have a list of things they better change.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if they got a hotline. I don't know how that works.
Oh, I know. I know. But spirituality changes, I think, don't you?
100%. Yeah. Especially as you age and you
Especially
start
as you
thinking
age.
about that more.
Yeah,
So
thinking
that's
about-
why I ask.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like mortality wise, and that's why
Yeah.
You would have asked me 5 years ago, and I said, no, there's no way
Yeah.
I would even think about organized religion again. But spiritually, yeah, a lot more. Think about a lot more now, right?
Mhm.
Thinking about who am I, and
Yeah.
we're past. We've lived more
Yeah.
years than we were probably gonna live, which is a weird thing. And that's why this whole 50's got to be great.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
I'm proud of you. That's awesome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
New show.
Can't believe
here.
you do this 4 days a week. This is a lot.
Yeah. Well,
It's great.
that's, I don't know. We'll see if I can keep it up. I got to book guests for next week still. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
So I'm running low. I'll have to start going, getting guests through the internet soon, because
Yeah.
I'll burn through people I know who live close and then
Yeah.
stretch out. But I love having these conversations, and I also love learning from people who people don't know. You're not a celebrity necessarily,
Yeah.
and so it's but you're also successful in your own right at doing what it is that you do. And so it's what does that mean to you? What does living what we're calling an Ascent life mean to you? Which is just trying to live your best life day to day.
Yeah.
And how do we go through this thing called life? So I think it's good for us to ask ourselves these questions every once in a while. How do we define success? What's our purpose? I feel like a lot of people just go through life and don't ask themselves these questions, and then they end up at the end like, oh, crap.
Yeah. I mean, do you think as creatives we do that more?
I hope so, because that's how we make art. We're supposed to push that. We're supposed to make things that make people think, and that's like Cam was saying, who was one of the first guests on the show. It's, art's gonna make you question something.
Yeah.
It's gonna put you on a different level somewhere.
Yeah.
So to think about something, or it's not really art. It's a craftsmanship.
Sure. Yeah, and I wonder if that's at the heart of the question too, is I wonder if it's just a certain type of person that's always asking, asking, what am I doing today? What am I doing today as in a list, like a grocery list, but what am I really doing today? I think there's some of us who do naturally and some who don't. And I think it's hard. I think it's probably harder for us who naturally wake up every morning and say, what am I going to do today? And what does that do mean? It means, how am I going to create art, or how am I going to touch somebody, or, not Neil Gaiman stuff. How am I going to make the world a better place? How am I going to do something today? I think it's probably harder for us to look at a segment of the population, which is fine. And there's no judgment, not at all. I think a lot of us would probably prefer to wake up many days of our lives and not the what is it, the soap opera, many days of our lives, and I think we would wouldn't it be nice for a couple months to just take the brain off, right?
But I can't do it.
I can't
There's
do
no
it.
way.
So I think it's probably harder for us to understand those who don't ask than it is for those who don't ask to understand us.
Okay, so here's how I think I know where you're going, but here's
Or is it the opposite? That's what, is it the opposite? Would it be harder for them? No, I think it's harder for us.
Well, so here's how I think it happened with, and I'll give myself as an example.
Yeah.
But have you worked a job? Because this is what happened to me. I'm working a job like, good job.
Yeah.
Don't hate the job.
Yeah.
Also, I don't feel fulfilled. I feel like there's something else out there that I should be doing. And then I get mad because I'm like, why should I make good money?
Yeah.
I like my work. Like I like the people I work with, but I am not, like, I'm split, like, mentally. Yeah. And that's because I had a hobby, podcasting, and then I had to finally ask my question. It was like, okay, well, if one had to go, I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop podcasting.
Yeah.
So I got to do that. And so I have to turn that into a career, and a creative career. And so I don't know how many people struggle with that. Like, are there people, my grandpa worked up on base, and he was like, get a government job. And
sure.
That's a lot of advice that a lot of kids our age got, right?
Sure.
And it's not the worst advice if you can do
not.
it,
a lot of people retire in our age.
Right, for the second time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't physically do that.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, my first job was as a bagger in a grocery store, and that sounds kind of mundane, but in retail, you're with the public.
Yeah.
And you're active, you're physical, you're active. And so that kind of keeps your mind going.
Right.
But then when I did a sit down job in an office, I had the hardest time. Now I can sit and edit stuff that's ours, that's creative work, but when I'm trying to do working on spreadsheets and financials for a business that I couldn't, it was killing me. It's like ripping me apart.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you experience that in your jobs, but I think as a creative, we're pulled, and I don't even think we even know what we want, but we just know, like, dude, there's got to be something else out there that we are trying to do, that we have to do. Like, I feel pulled to do the thing, and I couldn't define it. I mean, I'm 50. I couldn't define it, and I'm like, well, let's try this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe hopefully this is the thing that settles me down a little bit.
Sure. Well, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier. This is why somebody should not ask you, are you still doing that writing thing? Or are you still doing the podcasting thing? Because I think that I've been in those jobs.
Yeah.
I've been in those jobs in the last 15 years while I was writing. Some of them, not now. And it was the writing that kept me going. It was the thing that meant something to me. It was the writing. It was the art. It was our podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, those meant so much to me. It was those things that were what am I going to do today? Answering that question. It's because I've been in those jobs where I'm like, oh man, this is killing me. One of them was on base, Yeah. And it was like, but I've been there, but I think it was the writing every day that was like, I'm doing what I want. Maybe it's I'm doing what I want to do. It's doing what I believe in. And this is what I want to put into the world. I got the day job, sure. Mm-hmm. That's why it's always such an insult when somebody says, are you still doing the writing thing? Mm. It's not the writing thing. The writing thing is the thing that sustained me through a lot of bad jobs. Mm-hmm. The writing thing, the podcasting for you has brought so much to this community, Ogden. Right? I mean, look at Van Sessions now. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many sessions have you gotten, and how many artists have you touched?
It's been 9 years.
How many musicians have you touched and put their stuff on YouTube? And that's the thing we were talking about earlier. Like, you gave voice to all these musicians through Van Sessions. How many I mean, that's cool. That's amazing. And maybe that kept you going through other stuff. You've had other jobs since then. Yeah. And
not bad jobs.
Bad jobs, but just not the ones that
I just felt pulled to do.
Right.
This felt split, and that's where it was like,
yeah.
Am I the only one that feels like this sometimes?
Yeah, and that's a question too. Like, if I were able to work on my writing only, and I have this job that I absolutely love, this would be the only time in my life where I would say to myself, do I quit my day job or not? In the past, I've been like, I'll quit my day job yesterday,
Yeah.
But this is the one time in my life, because I think it's back to the purpose thing that we were talking about, that it's fulfilling that same purpose as my writing and as my teaching was. I would have given up teaching in a heartbeat. Don't get me wrong, but this is the first time in my life, if I got a big contract in a big advance, I would actually have to grapple with.
You have to think about it.
Do I stay or do I just become a full-time writer? And I don't know. It depends on the advance, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's like,
if it's that big, you're like, oh, I'd be dumb not to.
If it's that big, it's like, how much of this can I do part-time?
Right. Well, I think you go through the exercise, and you said the words, and now that I can't remember what you said, but you go through the exercise, and it's like, okay, if somebody did give me, I ended up with 10 mil, and I can just, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I'm like, okay, well, if I had, honest to God, had that much money, what would I just do with my life? Well, I wouldn't sit home all day.
Right.
And I wouldn't vacation all the time. I would love to travel. I think traveling's fun.
Yeah.
But I feel the need to tell the stories.
Sure.
Right.
You'd still do advanced
to talk to people.
You'd still do
I would
stuff.
I would do the podcasting. I would just have more money to put into it.
Yeah.
And I could travel with it.
Right.
And I could go to new places and meet new people and new guests, and I would have more money to get it out there to more people. But I would 100% be podcasting.
Exactly. And that's what's cool.
Yeah.
You know you would.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. You know you would.
So if you got 10 mil, you're listening, and you want to send over, we can take this a lot bigger.
Do you really want to know our answer? Tune in.
Okay. On that note, I've got our thanks, Kase, for your time. Appreciate it. Man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. 4 days a week. We're live here. Today's wisdom from the pages. I lost my little remote. This is on the subject of saving money. You'll like this. Saving is a hedge against life's inevitable ability to surprise the hell out of you at the worst possible moment. That is from Morgan Housel on the psychology of money. So make sure you do have some savings in the bank. It's good for you and your soul. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Ascent Life Live. We'll be back tomorrow with the guest, photographer, artist, and creative Austin Luckett. Kase, where can people find your work and find you if they want to follow you?
Just start at kasejohnston.com. That works.
Yeah, it's got a really nice bio on there.
Yeah.
It's really cool. The font looks good. The pictures are good.
When I wrote it, I didn't have much to write that day. So
we took it out on the bio.
Yeah, right.
If you made it this far in the program, please subscribe on YouTube at R. Brandon Long or to the Ascent Life podcast on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on X and TikTok at R. Brandon Long for your daily dose of inspiration. Follow Ascent Life on Instagram. So thanks for joining me on this journey as we all learn how to level up and become the best version of ourselves. No wasted ability. We'll catch you tomorrow here on Ascent Life. Woohoo!
Ooh.